Hello and welcome to another edition of Knickerbocker Banter. Today with me, a real treat, the stars of the compound and friends, huge Knick fans, better people, Josh Brown and Michael Batnick. Welcome to the program, guys. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having us, Harris.
Yes. Means a lot. You know what? You guys would appreciate this. When I announced you guys were coming on the show earlier in the week, I got more messages than anybody so far. So I have a lot of friends that, all good.
All right.
A lot of friends that follow you guys. I mean, they weren't even asking me Knick related stuff. Obviously, they want your advice. I said you might have to tune into their show for that, but it was all really positive.
You know what? I think there's a big overlap, like Wall Street people or people that work in finance in New York and Knicks fans. I feel like on that Venn diagram, there's probably a lot of overlap there. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, and I got like I said, I got a lot of texts about it, and people were surprised, and they, they're fans, and of the episodes that I've tuned into, and it's been really, really a joy to follow you guys and watch what you guys have been able to accomplish, and we meet through basketball, right? And I'm not going to obviously talk family too much on the show. I know you guys, respecting your private lives, but your sons both have better jump shots than you guys, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you are a very big part of the reason why my son is playing most of the minutes in his JV basketball games. They won a game last night by 1 point, and Nugget hit a three.
Wow.
And also got a huge stop down the stretch. And absent him taking that shot, having the confidence to take that shot, and then stopping their big guy with, like, I don't know, 8 seconds left, we don't win that game. And it's amazing to see what that does for a kid's confidence. They don't have to be the starter, they don't have to be the best player on the team, but just that ability to contribute. And I think a lot of the confidence he has is because of the workouts that he's doing with you. So I know I don't get to say thank you in person, but I'll say thank you on your podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And that means a lot hearing it, because that's why I'm in that business, because I just want to be able to inject confidence and allow kids to enjoy the sport. But shifting gears a little to your show and what the podcast world has become. When I went and did some research and homework, I believe the year was 2019. You could correct me if I'm wrong on when that started and what has become since, how it's developed. Did you guys have that vision earlier, kind of went with it and kind of said, all right, we're going to improve as we go? Did you see it becoming what it is today?
So I'm going to let Michael was the first podcaster at our firm. And
no, not true. Barry.
This Barry's predated yours?
Yeah, Masters in Business was before mine. Masters in Business was before Patrick's, I think.
Oh, that could be. But that's produced by Bloomberg. So the first one we did. So Harris, we have a coworker, Ben Carlson, who's like Michael's work wife, or Michael's the wife. I'm not sure. But they would have these really great phone, because Ben's in Michigan. They'd have these really great phone conversations, literally 5 days a week, about what's happening in the markets. And then it was like that, this conversation that you guys are having, this should be a podcast. And they did it. Like, they launched it, and they bought equipment, they figured it out. And that was
2017. That was 2017. So Howard, we didn't know what it was going to become. In fact, after one episode, Josh didn't have the balls to say it to me. So he said to our partner, Chris, I didn't think there was enough stuff to talk about. Because Ben and
I thought you'd just be done after like one show, because you did 25 topics in one shot. I said, that's it.
So the answer to your question is no, we didn't know what it was going to become. When Josh and I started, we modeled it after Cornars and Wilbon. We just said, like, let's just do PTI and just throw each other some topics. And when we started, it was garbage. I thought, like, I was figuring out how to speak into a microphone. This might sound dumb, but my stance has changed when you hear people say stupid shit on the internet or on TV, because I listen to my podcast a day later and I will disagree with what I said 12 hours ago, because it's stream of consciousness, right? So it took us a while to build the confidence, at least for me, to build the confidence of speaking to a microphone. And when we started, we didn't know what we were doing in terms of like camera angles. It was shooting at the side of our face. We were recording on iPhones, I think. And so I think what we had was the confidence to know that we could figure it out, because our blogs sucked shit when we started those too. but we had the confidence that we're pretty good at figuring stuff out and doing content. And we knew it just was going to take some time. And 5 years later, I think we're hitting our stride.
Yeah, no, like you said, when you go back, it's wild to see those early ones, right?
Yeah.
They're unwatchable for us on YouTube. Like I should probably take them down at some point. But like to Michael's point, like you have to be able to look at what you're doing, and even if you like it, you still have to be willing to find the flaws and come up with solutions to correct it. And sometimes Michael and I have had to be honest with each other. Like Michael will be like, dude, I saw what you did in the doc for the show tonight. You're just mailing it in. Like you're not really trying that hard. That's not easy for Michael to say to me because physically I'm so dominant, but he'll say that. And vice versa. Like I'll say, dude, could you be like 80% less distracted? And
You know what I mean? No, I cannot. Can't help it.
And he can't. No, but we will look at what we're doing wrong and correct it, and sometimes correct each other, and that's obviously a little bit delicate. But I feel like the best takeaway from our experience has been to just every time at that, if you have the audience's attention, try to make it better. And when you hit your stride and you find like, all right, this is what we do, this is how we do it, you're still not done because everything is advancing. Everyone's getting better and better at creating content, and you're always fighting. Like you're fighting with Netflix, basically, for people's attention.
Yeah, people ask us
There's
like,
nobody you're not competing with.
Who's like the other wealth management podcast that you compete with? It's like, no, we compete with Bill Simmons and Joe Rogan.
Everybody, yeah.
That's it. So I think one of the benefits that we have with the whole world is when we started in 2019, we already had an audience and we were delivering content in a new medium for us. And it just, frankly, wasn't that good. And it was a little tough because we built the audience and now we were doing something different. I think one of the advantages that you have, because like I said earlier, it took me like 2 years before I stopped getting the butterflies before every show, is that you are starting without an ingrained audience. And so you have the benefit of building building the airplane while you're flying it, and the audience will come in and you'll get better over time.
Yeah, you know what? When I get the butterflies and nervous energy, I kind of relate it to basketball. And obviously we will get to the Knicks at some point, but I just love picking your guys' brain and obviously admire the work that you've put in. And it's, like I said, it's amazing to watch in real time. You know, it's awesome.
Let's talk basketball.
We definitely will. But the butterflies in the stomach, I always think that I've heard athletes talk about this before, the high level ones. I don't know if I ever want that to go away. You know, I think the part of me as a player, when I got that, it was just, it meant like, all right, here's a big game. I care. And you talk about confidence. Yes, over time, I'm going to get more confident. You have more guests on, all that stuff. But, you know, I'm passionate about this stuff. I love it, you know, so I know that if there's that fire in me and there's that, if that goes away, I got to check my pulse. I feel like, you know, I think that's like an ingrained part. And then, okay, it goes away. I got to kind of almost like making my first shot in the game. And then I'm like, all right.
I think we can relate to that. Like for me, the butterflies have gone away, but the excitement hasn't. Like I still I do 4 podcasts a week and I love it. So for me, the passion
last summer, one of the things I told you, Harris was like, thank God you don't have an audience yet. It's like the best. It's a blessing. Like everyone that starts a podcast, they want to feel like someone's listening after the 3rd episode or the 4th episode. They want to be able to tell their friends, hey, this thing's catching on. But that would not be doing them any favors. And the same thing with booking guests. You're getting better and better guests. Like you got us. We're, I would say, solidly 4th tier. But like if you got Patrick Ewing today, I don't think that's great for you.
Like, I agree.
You will get him. And when you get him, it's going to be because somebody told him, yo, you should be on this Knicks podcast. Everybody's listening to it. And by that time, you will be like ready for that moment. So I love what you're doing. I love the build. When you announce your guests, I get fired up as a Knicks fan and as a friend of yours. And like, you're going to start all of a sudden, people are going to start coming to you. You're going to be ready. It just might not be today. We live in a world where everybody wants gratification. Everybody wants to make it like a week later. And it's not good for people to hit that level of success before they're really ready for it.
Yeah, no, what you gave me advice early on that I jot down. I keep my notebook around, and I've told people that if 7 people listen to this for the next 2 years, I would still do it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When you're watching Knick games, because you're like, I am a casual diehard fan.
Okay.
Like I can't understand like the play calls and everything. Like I watch every single game and I have for, I don't know. Oh my God, I'm 40. So I don't know, over 30 years, but I don't see like the X's and O's. Like, are you literally taking notes while you watch?
I take not on necessarily the plays. I get an idea of what systems and what play and what ideas they're going to throw in, and how they're going to play through towns, and where Brunson likes it, and where these other guys might roll to and find comfortable spots on the floor. But the notes that I take, I try to move away from the numbers. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I've said I want to show my personality a little bit more than the stat guy. And I think there's a healthy balance between I'm going to break this game down and I'm going to read a box score. Anybody could tune into something and hear someone talk about stats and numbers. So my idea is like, okay, how did I react to that? I talk about body language sometimes. Like, I want to come at some different angles that you might not think about. And from being a player and being around the game a lot, those are the things that I kind of take note of. Yes, you got to talk about Bridges making shots in the last couple games, right? But maybe the play that got him going is what he really likes to do, which is, if you've watched, he really moves well off the ball, and he's able to time it up with Brunson because they've played well together. They played well at Nova together. Now he's going to move off the ball. Now he's seen 2 layups go in. All right, the basket might be a little bigger for him now. He's more likely to make some threes. So stuff like that I try to pick up on, that I think it helped. But I watched a game with both you guys. Don't sell yourself short, Mike. You know what the heck is going on out there.
No. And I do. I'm just saying, like, in terms of like play calling and like really like X's and O's type stuff. No, I know that like Mikhail likes going right to left and like the marriage. Like, I know all that stuff. I'm just saying, I don't see the game like a coach. I see it like a fan.
Yeah, I see it from both, right? Like I've always told people it was weird because you don't get a kid in college. Me and my friend joke about this. When I watch the game, I do have the stats open. And usually people that watch the game with the stats open don't have any clue of how to play it. But that's what I found. It's like I'm sitting there on my computer, a big stat nerd, but I'm also going out and scoring, 20 in a college game. It was a rare combination. That's why I knew I'd be married to this for the rest of my life. And I can't get enough of it, man. I'm already waiting for the game tomorrow. It's something that oozes out of me, and what a time to be a Knicks fan, right?
Yeah. Speaking of stats and analytics, I'm curious where you come down on. This was obviously floating around Knicks Twitter yesterday. I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I scream, Jericho, you bum. And the day later, I screamed Jericho, and Logan, my 5-year-old, said, you bum. So I'm sure you saw yesterday Jericho's defensive stats.
Yes.
Like, I trust my eyes more than I trust those stats. I don't know if that's dumb, but like,
No, it's not.
I don't see a rim protector. I see a really athletic, goofy guy that is lost on the court.
He's had a couple of big blocks though, in key moments, and that brings you back to him. Even when he frustrates you,
Not me.
it's like, oh wow. I mean, he's had some big blocks. I'm not saying statistically you want that guy being your backup for Mitch, who knows how many games he'll play this year, but like he does sort of part of the job.
Well, you bring up a really valid point. One thing is sample size that I think about. Like, he's not out there for more than 12, 15 minutes. So
Oh, God.
those numbers, he's been the beginning of these ones. I'm not a very negative fan, but the beginning of the year was hard to defend. Let's be honest. The beginning of the year, that wasn't what we want out there. Everyone was calling for Huck Porty because anything was better, right? And this is no knock on Josh. I think he would have been better maybe in certain minutes.
But it's his 4th year. He's not getting better. He doesn't know how to play. He doesn't know where to be on the court. He looks like a deer in the headlights.
Well, yeah, and the athleticism, I guess what Tibbs will point to, and I'm sure he loves that number because he's justifying playing him. You've seen some of his trust issues, right? I don't know if we could relate this to the business world, but like when you bring in a freshman, you bring in a rookie, you bring in a guy that you don't know that well yet, Tibbs has some trust issues with relying on them to play rotation minutes. So even if a guy isn't what we want him to be yet, he thinks that's better than bringing somebody in new, whether he's right or wrong. You know, that number that you talked about.
Yo, can I say something like sort of not great to say, but that's kind of like my whole shtick.
Yes.
I don't trust a guy who has a different hairstyle every night. Like he's not it because what that feels like to me, like one night it's cornrows and then it's like it's all the way out and then it's kind of in the middle. Sometimes there's a headband, sometimes there isn't. What that expresses to me, and I'm like a person that pays attention to fashion and clothing and how people present themselves. What that says to me, that's like an externality of an inner confusion. What am I on this team? Am I the badass with the braids and the whole shit? Or am I like, hey, I'm the kid with the Robin Lopez hair?
It sounds like you're talking about Julius too.
I don't love that either. I got to be honest with you, but like it's blatant. In the case of Sims, I always got to be like, wait, who is that? Oh, it's Jericho Sims. He's doing something different with his hair. I don't think it's doing him any favors personally, but also from an identity standpoint as a Knick in the eyes of Knicks fans and probably decision makers in the front office. It's like, yo, adopt a persona for this season. Stop with the variation, because what it's saying to us is you don't really feel confident in what you're bringing to the court. Is that fucked up? Like, can I say it?
Well, it never hurt.
On a point. Deuce McBurn.
Batnick never changes his hair.
Mine never changed. Always.
Nipples what he brings to the table.
Well, I've never heard that perspective before. Here are a couple things as we move on, because I do want to talk about the game and what they've looked like the last couple nights. But the when Mitchell Robinson is ready to return, I think we all know the X factor that he could be and the health concerns. This won't be a talking point anymore. I mean, there is no room for Jerry. And listen, I don't have anything against him personally in terms of, sure, he's a nice guy. I would also love to see just once, and I know Anunoby is one of the most even-keeled quality players. You know, he's reaching that star level now. He's like a fringe all-star like what I know. On occasion, you will see emotion from him. Has anybody ever seen that from Jericho Sims?
Not once.
And I think that doesn't necessarily make him a bad player. But once in a while, I can't even imagine how hard that is to just roam around with emotionless expression. That's what, like, in a sport that, you know, listen, you don't need to do, to me, like some of the celebration can become too much. But I think OG has figured it out with his demeanor.
So I could live without that. And there's a point at which emotion goes bad. I was never a big Julius Randle fan. I understood and respected his contribution to the rebirth of the Knicks. He will always be really important to this era, even though he's not on the team anymore, because I think the level that he played at gave the team credibility for other people to even consider coming here. And I think he gave his body to the game, and I think he threw himself around and he really wanted it. But the emotional stuff for me with Randle was always the reason why I wasn't a Randle fan. I don't like when the players wear their hearts on their sleeves to that extent, where it actually alters the way the team plays. And Randle had bad body language, and RJ did too, quite frankly. And it's not an accident that the team just feels different with both of them out of the picture. I don't love my Knicks as like emo Knicks. I don't think it's necessary. I gotta be honest with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's definitely fair. I think the way that these guys balance it now, maybe Hart has a little of that emotion towards the refs sometimes, but I think the way guys like Brunson balance it, even Towns, like you're in a professional league with guys who are making millions of dollars, the camera's pointing them at all times. You're never going to have like, well, you can, I guess, with Anunoby, but with Walt Frazier talks about not too high, not too low. I mean, I think we get a little nitpicky with it, but I just love.
Oh, Cat did something funny last night.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was.
You saw that face he made, but so he's got these monster German guys banging him all night, all night, and then finally he just looks at the ref and he's like, and then he turns around and hits a jumper in his face. I kind of love that. I'm cool with that kind of emotion, like that facial expression, frustration toward the ref, if it's in the zone of, hey, I really want to win this game. I like that.
So Harris, I was very frustrated with the road trip.
Yeah.
I think almost losing to Charlotte was a catastrophe, but that LaMelo Ball, that's a trash team even with him. I mean, I know they're playing better, but losing to the Jazz was really unfortunate. Losing to Dallas without Luka. Was there another bad loss that I'm missing?
No, they were 3-2 on the trip.
So I know the road trips that we were 3-2, not bad, but the way that we were losing, just wide open threes all over the place, had me feeling like very frustrated. I know it's a long season. We as fans tend to overreact, but I was nervous about Mikal. Like, is this starting to get mental? Like,
Which was the worst loss to you? The worst loss to you?
Jazz
of the road trip.
Just in terms of, they just have no business losing that team.
The magnitude of that.
Just no business. And again, the way they were losing on the defensive side. Listen, our offense is sick, right?
Yep.
And I know we're gonna get Precious back, we're gonna get Mitch back. And nobody's confused that like Jalen's not, an elite defender, but it is. I thought Mikal was an elite defender, and I'm not like, panicking, but like, my God, man, where's the defense?
Well, I think you nailed a couple things that when I discuss November basketball, I always, whether it's great, like after last night, you have some people on, and I've always mentioned Twitter and how toxic some of the up and down stuff can be. And I do try to steer clear of it after games. It's hard not to. It's like, I got to go back to it. It's almost like a car accident. You got to look, right? Like, that's how I feel going on social media after the games. I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because if it was happening in January and February, that's when I would get more concerned. And some of these long road trips, I think some of the human element is taken out of it. Like, hey, we played great in Denver. That's awesome. That's probably a little bit better than what you'll see most of the year, right? And Phoenix was great, right? But then there are nights like end of the road trip, post Thanksgiving, 12 o'clock game. I don't make excuses. They didn't play well that day. But I've seen enough in the first 21 games to make me feel like, all right, once this thing settles in, and once NBA basketball, as I've always had this conversation with my friends, post-Christmas is really when the NBA
starts in January.
Yeah. And so whatever they're doing right now, there's been enough to look at and be like, this looks actually, you know what? We're moving. Yeah, listen, Bridges played as well. He knows he's got to be better. He knows there are certain things he's not doing well. And I think eventually, over the course of time, you'll start to see, and I've said this to you before, you'll start to see the version of him. But I do think there is, I know no one wants to hear the gel and the adjustment period stuff, but, going from situation to situation, and all right, I'm eventually going to, game 55, if we see the Bridges we see right now, you'll get that conversation from me, and we'll say, hey, we got to have a talk. Shout out to you, by the way, for calling this trade back in April, which was awesome during that interview when I pull up that clip. But yeah,
if only Bridges cared more about the Emirati Cup. I feel like he doesn't feel he's not that into it. He's not that into the tournament. He had some good shots last night. One of the big criticisms of the team last year, and it was an amazing, super fun season.
Yeah.
Was and maybe a little bit this year, the way Tibbs is using his puzzle pieces, especially late in games. Last year toward the end, there was like no choice. You basically had to use what you had. I think we were down to 3 players that any other NBA team would have had on the floor. How do you feel about the rotations this year? I know this is something that you've talked a bunch about. You feel like it's in a better place right now?
Well, I will say this. I'm really happy with what I've seen from Campaign.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and you know what? He's a guy that
he's so annoying to other teams.
I hated him. I hated him
last
year. Last year when I one of the Sixers playoffs games, he was so annoying. One of the guys behind me yelled Ratatouille, called him Ratatouille, and I can't unsee it. But now I love his vibes on the bench. He's playing really good ball, and I love that he's playing with Deuce.
Yeah, and that's a tandem right there. That's a good little 1-2 punch off the bench. Deuce McBride has certainly stepped up. But would I want them to play 9, maybe 10? Of course, I think you want to see more guys contribute. You want to think that, all right, we're deeper. But as we talked about,
he's never
9 is about as much as he will go. There'll be certain nights in blowouts. Listen, the Tibbs argument and the conversation as much as we could scream about it till we're blue in the face, this is kind of who he is, right? And this is kind of what we're going to do. And, we have some guys that can play a lot of minutes. I'm one person that doesn't believe that you could really run a team into the ground. I don't know how you guys feel about this. This has always been my stance. 3 or 4, 5, 7 minutes extra a night in an NBA game is not going to, when you look in April, May, and June, it's not going to be the reason for injuries. It's not going to be the reason why guys are tired. Now, if a guy's out there when you're up 25 with 2 minutes left and gets hurt, that's a problem.
That happened with
But he does that. Yes. But he does that shit.
Right. That's how Julius got hurt. I against the Heat.
I think there was a few more minutes left in that.
I think I don't know. Double check. But I remember saying to the TV, literally, like, why is they out there? And then Julius' just shoulder exploded. So I'm sort of with you. I don't mind Josh getting 40 minutes a night. But when we're up double digits, not even double digits, when you're up 17 with 2 minutes to go, 90 seconds to go, come on, man. And you're right. Is that a make or break? No, and Ty's get hurt.
Yeah, that's Jericho time, for sure.
Well, he's been in earlier. He's certainly been earlier.
I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you. So we have a Knicks group chat. Michael and I are in it. You should probably be in it. We'll talk about that later. But I was saying, if you would have asked me last year, keep or let go, IQ or Deuce, I was probably like a keep IQ guy. And I know it's not the same contract situations, et cetera, but like just in terms of what they're bringing to the team off the bench. So I don't know anything. The decision to stay with Deuce and let that continue it seems like the right decision. I haven't watched a lot of Quickly, playing, but this year, but like it seems right to me. Do you feel the same?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with this one. In my Knicks chat that we had after they signed McBride to $4 or $5 million, whatever it was, people were confused. This is now one of the best financial decisions in the entire NBA. And I was wrong about him. My dad would always, when I was watching the games with him, he'd be high on him. I'm like, well, his defense is legit, but can he be an offensive threat? This guy has improved, and he's improved quickly. How about that clip early in the year with him and Huck Porty? I don't know if you saw it, when he was talking about, hey, you got to make the most of your minutes.
That was awesome.
This is what having a winning culture and having guys like
Clarkson
around, he is a winner.
Yeah.
And that's very important. So yeah, McBride, when people were questioning that move, people will talk about the OG trade and they're now the Cat trade and forget that the Knicks now have such a friendly deal with him. And you're right. I mean, Quickly wanted to go be a starter on a bad team. Go do it. I mean, you want to go make your money. You can't hate the guy for chasing that down. But what McBride has been able to provide and what he has turned into, to me, you're right. I think that gets overlooked because people were confused when they gave him that. All right, I guess we're going to go with McBride now that Quickly's gone, and look what the guy has turned into.
I was probably one of those people. I was probably one of those people just because I was thinking of it as like, well, we got to commit to one of these guys, and Brunson is going to get almost all the minutes, and you're not going to keep them both. And then, oh my God, look, Quickly's going to go.
I was
one of those people.
I was thrilled with the trade. Again, basketball hated, not personal, right? Like I basketball hated RJ. I couldn't stand watching him. He wasn't getting
fine with that either way.
He wasn't getting better. And I was so mad at RJ for being so stinky that we had to attach IQ to get rid of him. But you're right. And IQ wasn't like necessarily playing great with us either. He was very disappointing. But it's funny.
Playoffs too. He really on short in the play.
He was streaky.
But there was no streak
in a bad game.
He was
I'm saying toward the end he was colder than usual. But
right,
he would like have one out of 4 games where he would show up and be hitting threes, and you would be like, oh my God, we're so lucky we have this guy.
Love the guys that can take the roof off Madison Square Garden. But getting back to Julius, I think I had a love-hate relationship with him, and I understand that the Knicks fans had a complicated relationship with him because of Josh was saying earlier, like he came here, he was no consolation or a small consolation in my mind at the time for not getting KD or Kyrie. I was like, Julius was like a nice piece, I guess, but he was certainly like, he fell really short of what expectations were. And then he came in here, and in hindsight, that playoff series that we had against the Hawks where we lost, look at that team. Reggie Bullock and Alec Burks and Alfred Payton and Morley, who I liked, and Taj. Like, that was a garbage team.
Yeah.
And he overachieved big time. And so when I got the text at 10:15 or whatever it was that we got rid of him, I felt very torn because I wanted to give this team a chance to come back and just see what we can do because we never had that. We had it for 9 games, 11 games, whatever it was. We were 9-2. Um, in hindsight, I was 100% wrong. I didn't see Dante's like come back to earth. And I think that's like a situational thing that'll fix itself. But I understand why we did it, right? If we weren't going to pay Julius, we didn't want his toxicity on the court. And I totally get that. What I was 100% wrong about was Cat because he showed some shit in Minnesota that was like, yeah, we know he's a great shooter. We know he's a special talent, but really dumb fouls in the Dallas series, just like unnecessary fouls, not a winner, soft, all that stuff.
Right.
And I think a lot of that narrative has just turned out to not be true. Like he's not soft. He doesn't play great defense, whatever. Like he doesn't.
What about
stuff.
can't
Like,
play well for Tibbs? They didn't get along that time.
So
Shit.
I've never been more happy to be like so wrong about a trade because I had very mixed feelings. Not that I was going to boycott the team. Obviously, I was going to root for Cat. I was not high on him, and I've never been more happy to be wrong.
And you know what, with Cat, which I think another human element, by the way, his dad's like the nicest guy. We saw him at the Garden the other night. So shout out to Cat's father, who was just saying hello to everybody. He's got to be in heaven too, right? He comes back home. You know, went to school in Jersey. The human side comes out again, right? And
Yeah,
he just looks, and I think KG was the one who said it. One of these guys on the podcast was like, man, he just, there's more energy to him. You know, there's more life to the guy, you know, and
he's not soft.
yeah, and listen, he might have a game where you want more from him in the playoffs, right? But from a talent perspective, and now it's always different watching somebody every night. It's always different. He might have not, when they brought Gobert in there and things were changing. I like the idea of him being the big, go get your 12, 15 rebounds a game. Because sometimes with a guy like that, when he's snatching the ball, he just feels like more, all right, now we're going to get him his touch, right? You saw those first few games, he had like 7 shots, 8 shots. He was like trying to fit it right. All right, we got to get this guy the ball. We got to make him feel welcome. And now you see Brunson take on this unselfish, like facilitator role. We all understand, like, this is what it's supposed to look like. Brunson doesn't have to be the hero.
The pick and rolls with the two of them that's as good as there is in the NBA right now. Is Cat a Nick? I know it's too early in this career to answer yes or no. He's awesome on the Knicks, but that's not what I'm asking. You know what I'm asking?
I think the playoff determines that. And as much as he will have a great regular season, we saw it here with Julius. No one really cared about your all NBA regular seasons. And it's funny because the Knicks fan is contradicting themselves all the time. They want to blast you in the regular season, but when you're great, it doesn't matter, right? Let's understand that Julius accomplished a lot here, but he did have some shortcomings in some important moments that whether he was hurt or not, it's irrelevant at this point because it's over. But if Cat is able to go into the playoffs like Brunson's done, because we know Brunson, his reputation, no matter what happens, in my mind, right? That's a Nick already because of he's done it in the big moments and he showed you that he could do it in the big moments. Cat in April, no matter if he has 26 and 12 and he's the starting center in the All-Star game, if he doesn't have a good first round series and the Knicks are upset, people will forget that very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where I think
he's got to earn. All right, I'm with you on that. Like Brunson spends like 10% of these games in the postseason on his back. You know what I mean? Like being helped up. He's a Nick. Josh Hart was a Nick from his first game. I think Knicks fans love Cat right now.
He's been great.
You're right. Like, let's see postseason, and then he's a Nick, maybe potentially.
I'm optimistic. Well, AC obviously, but like he has an infrastructure here where he doesn't have to be the 1A, and he's got a great system, stability, support. Jalen's the alpha. Like I'm not worried about him in the playoffs.
And this is the thing I tell people about Bridges too, and this is why I have confidence in him when the games matter. Everything we know about Jay Wright and the Nova guys is when the game is on the line and you have to go and everyone, the bigger the game gets, the bigger these guys get. Hart elevates his game in the playoffs. Obviously, you know what Brunson does. Cat had you mentioned it earlier in the show. He had some good moments in the playoffs last year and he has some moments, that you question, but he has done such a good job in the first 21 games of his career. I don't think anybody imagined it to happen this fast. This is just me. I thought, I thought, yeah, he'd average, he'd get his baskets, but for him to look as dominant as he has and the rebounding has been great, I just hope that he's healthy. That's the number one thing. I hope that he could play 65, 70 games would be a great number, I think, 70, 75, hopefully in that range. And like I said, once the springtime comes, if he plays like he does right now in the spring, you want to talk about being a Knick. You know, I mean, I don't know if he has enough years left in his prime to go up there, but if you win one, you go up there regardless. So if you win one, those two guys will be up there, those two numbers.
Well, Harris, it's been for me and for a lot of Knicks fans, it's been a long time. I remember, unfortunately, the Jared Jeffers years, the Othello Harrington years, and everything happening. And it's been a long time. And the fact that we're having this conversation now is it's exciting, and it is a good time to be a Knicks fan.
Absolutely. You know, I say that all the time, and I sound like a broken record because I'm always going to be glass half full. It's almost like my friend made a point the other day about defending all these guys that no longer are on your team. When you're in a relationship with them, whether it's a girl, you know, whatever you are, you tend to like overlook some things. You're like, yeah, Zola. Well, I even yell at Zola sometimes.
He's too optimistic.
I'm positive to a default, you know, to a fault sometimes. Excuse me, and I don't know. It's just the nature of me. I guess I could see it from both sides, and you know, we just want everybody has the same denominator though. We all want the team to be good really badly. If you're a diehard fan, you watch the games every night, you want the team to be good badly, and you see that when they celebrate these playoff wins like we won the championship. I don't apologize for that either because I forgot what that tastes like too. I mean, now it's going to become a normal thing, but you know, you don't take for granted these playoff wins. I mean, we went through 20 years of like a Great Depression here.
I was 14 the last time that we made a run, so I'm now 40. It's been a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great feeling walking out of the Garden from a playoff game, and people are in Herald Square, from Herald Square to Times Square, honking their horns. People spill out onto the street. You see people come out of the sports bars. It's like it's magic, and I hadn't seen it up until 3 years ago. I hadn't seen it in like 20 years, and I forgot what that's like because in New York we don't have the football stadiums in the city.
Right.
We don't have the baseball stadiums. I say in the city, in Manhattan. Nobody plays in Manhattan except for the Knicks and Rangers, and so we don't like when you go to other cities. A lot of them. Michael and I were just in Philadelphia, and I didn't realize it. They have baseball next to football next to basketball.
All of them. Yeah.
And hockey. Like it's all. So like when they win something, you could just picture that whole parking lot area filling up with people. Like we haven't had that in Manhattan in a really long time. Like even if the Giants win a big playoff game, where would you visually see that? I'm not sure outside.
Everyone's living room.
Right. Yeah. Like there's nowhere that you would like see the expression of that. But if the Bucks win something, and by the way, Bucks, what the hell is going on there? They're winning now. It wasn't supposed to happen. If they win something, that whole corridor with Fiserv and then the restaurants and then the casino, like that explodes and it's physical. You're around fellow Bucks fans who really care. It would be nice to see that now with the Garden renovated and 31st Street is now like a thing.
Yeah,
so
good.
I feel like
Looks great.
Yeah, no, everything's looking better than it did, so it's all good.
Well, listen, I know we could do this all day because I know how much you guys love it, but I really do appreciate this, you know, because like I said, big fans of you guys, and now to get you to know you personally, and see how humble you are about what's happened in your lives, you know, that's where I want to head. So the advice that you guys have given me, the time you've taken, just know that it doesn't go overlooked for me, and it means a lot because I love this stuff and want to continue it, and hope that it's successful one day is what you guys are doing.
You're the man, Harris. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Keep going. You'll be the voice of Knicks fandom. Keep going.